So I'd say a 100-watt tube amp cranked going through a full stack, that's probably the best sound there is. But what if you don't want to carry around all that equipment? What if you live in an environment where you can't be making all that noise? How about a 0-watt amp the size of a pedal? Today we're going to be checking out the Simplifier. Stick around. Alright, so normally I don't do unboxing type stuff, but I just wanted to show you this box here. I thought it was pretty cool. It's got this like magnetic thing and it's got some cool writing in there. And then it also comes with this card. It does not come with a manual. You have to go to their website to get the manual. But it also comes with this sticker, which I thought was really cool. Has this guy playing guitar with the Simplifier there. And it says, "This Simplifier unit was made at home during the COVID-19 lockdown in Chile." And it also says that on the bottom of the pedal here. And it has someone's, I guess I could try and show you here. Has someone's initials handwritten in pen and also has the number 260. So this is number 260. I just thought that was really cool and it goes along with the handmade thing. My first impressions here is you could tell it looks very like DIY boutique type thing, which has its pros and cons. One of the cons are these switches are not very smooth and they get stuck and it's kind of annoying, but it's nothing too serious. Also, the nameplate looks very like hand-printed graininess in it, like it was printed off like just a regular printer or something, which is kind of funny to me. I've seen other videos on this and you can't really tell that from the videos, but I just think it's actually kind of cool going along with how they included that sticker and the handwritten and everything. It's just very personal. So I have it hooked up today through XLR outs, which is one of the reasons I bought this. It has DI left and right out. It also has TRS left and right out, which can be bypassed with the switch on the back there. So the main competitor, and pretty much the only competitor in my opinion, is the Strymon Iridium. I know there's a lot of other amp-in-the-box type pedals out there, but in my opinion, there's nothing else that has these features. Specifically stereo, which was super important to me. All the other ones I would have to buy two, which would make it really overpriced. Also the outputs, like which actually the Strymon Iridium doesn't even have, is having those XLRs out is so nice. And also having a like power amp section with the tubes. I know the Iridium does have that, but there's just a lot of things that the amp-in-the-box pedals don't include. They'll have like maybe a couple preamps you can choose from with some EQ controls and a speaker sim out. These have stereo sim speakers. They have a power amp section, which is there's not many pedals that have that. And then it has 3 different preamps, all with treble, bass, and mids. Has a stereo return and send, a headphone out, which was crucial for me because I wanted to be able to play headphones. This is mainly going to be used for practice for me, which I know seems like a little overkill for practice, but I just wanted something that sounds really, really good. And then also I'm going to put it on a pedal board to use for live gigs as well, so I don't have to bring an amp with me to every gig. So I also have this reverb pedal hooked up because this does not have reverb. So I do not have it engaged right now, but we'll listen to what that sounds like in a bit. What else? Oh, we have this spread switch on the side. We have 3 different tubes, 6L6, EL34, KT86, and then 3 different cabs, 112, 2x12, 4x12. You can choose between those on the left side and the right side, which also we have a center and off-axis knob here. So all the way right is center, which is going to give you the brightest sound, and then all the way left is going to be like the microphone is off axis, like you're recording a cabinet, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and check this out. So I'm going to be listening on headphones, but I'm recording on the XLR outs. I think I already mentioned that. I'll start with the American here. I'm going to have everything at noon, and we can just hear what it sounds like. So one thing I would like to mention is with the volume, there is a big jump from once you go past noon. And it also adds, obviously it's supposed to simulate the volume on a tube amplifier, so it also changes the characteristics as well as you crank it up. But I just noticed a huge jump here. Whereas before, if you listen here, it's very gradual, and then just a big jump there. I notice once you get past that jump, there's a lot of characteristics that I personally like, and so I try and keep it at that point. Same with the gain too, you can hear. You hear that big jump there? And then another thing I want to point out, I'm just going to point out all the flaws, even though I really, really like this, is now we're going to go to the AC. Well, it's the AC Brit, but it's a Vox amp here. So not only is the preamp different, but we also can hear significantly louder, which is unpleasing to me. I don't want to have to adjust the volume every time I change amps. But if we go to the last amp, which is the Marshall, even louder. So that I'm not too happy with. I wish the volume was consistent throughout without having to adjust that. I'm going to leave the volume and gain there actually. So I've been on the 412 one. I'm going back to the American, which is simulating a Fender. Let's listen to the 1x12. All right, 2x12. And 4x12. 4x12 is my favorite, just the most open sounding. I'm going to make these all the way center here. You could tell it's very bright now. Let's put the microphones off axis. So a lot darker. I usually set these around here, so I'm going to keep those. I'm going to keep it right there for now. I'm going to keep it on the 412 because that's my favorite. We have been listening to the EL34s. Let's check out the K86 here. I don't use that one too often. Both of my amps, my real amps, use EL34s. But believe it or not, the 6L6s are my favorite. So let's listen to that. Just got a really nice resonance to it. Speaking of resonance, let's crank the resonance here, which is part of the power amp. You could just hear the bottom end come out. Let's turn that all the way. Kind of just missing some fullness. Especially with the Fender, I like to turn up the resonance a little bit right there. Now presence I like to turn up about here as well. But let's crank it. Presence all the way down. Tell it's a lot darker. The presence knob, I think, really just brings back some of that sparkle. Let's go ahead and listen to the Vox, speaking of sparkle. So I mostly use, like, I guess Marshall style amps because I think they're the most rock sound, which is mainly what I play. I do have Fender Blues Junior, but that's still not really that's not the Fender that this is supposed to replicate. But I've never been into Vox amps, to be honest. I just always thought they were too bright, but for some reason, that's my favorite amp out of here. I think they did the best job on that. It sounds the closest to it. It has this nice presence, and I really like it. But let's listen to the Marshall here, and we're going to get a volume jump here. All right, so I'm going to go back to the Fender and show you the gain here, which the Marshall has the most gain, but I'm trying to not need to adjust the levels too much because that's might clip my recording. So this is with the gain and volume all the way up. All right, let's go, Marshall. Yeah, that definitely clipped. But speaking of clipping, that was my fault for clipping. I need to turn down the gain on this input here going into my interface. But that is something I want to mention. I've noticed this on other reviews too, even when they didn't even mention it, and I could just hear it in the recording. There is some clipping going on when not good overdrive clipping, but unpleasing clipping when you crank the volume too much. Not sure why that is. That's a pretty big flaw in my opinion, but I can still work with it. You just turn the volume down, but it is unfortunate. I would say that is my biggest complaint out of everything is that's just there shouldn't. I don't know what the solution is, put a limiter on it or something, which might affect the tone too much, but like that you don't want it to clip. I can't even play it like that. I have to turn it down. So I turned it down here. Let's listen to the distortion. So I think part of the clipping problem is when you have a pedal hooked up to the send and returns, you're adding more volume into the return, which is causing the clipping. So I think driving it beforehand at the input, so if you're putting overdrives and fuzzes in front of it, you should be fine. I haven't had too much issues with that. But putting things in the send and return, you have to be careful. You might want to turn down the volume of that. But speaking of sends and returns, let's listen to what it sounds like with reverb, because the reverb makes a huge difference. It's just so dry. Having no reverb on an amp in a room is already pretty dry, and it's very noticeable. But when you're going straight into headphones, it just sounds so unnatural. So I have my Polera hooked up here in the send return stereo, and I just have it set to room. So let's listen to what a difference that makes. Huge difference. All right, I haven't really messed with the EQ. I like to leave it at noon, but let's just do a mid scoop on the Marshall here so we can get a heavier sound. So you could hear just a huge difference. I mean, this is probably like 10 decibels of cut. Go back to the Vox. And that's the Simplifier for you. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. It would be super helpful. I'll probably be doing more stuff with this in the future, so stick around.